Dog Works Radio is sponsored by Alaska Dog Works. Check out their website at alaskadogworks.com. You can support this podcast on patreon.com/firstpawmedia.
Hello and welcome to today's episode of Canadian Challenge Tales. We are joined today by Remy Leduc from New Brunswick, who's been mushing for quite a few years now, including the Yukon Quest in 2019, and he's been with us at the Canadian Challenge a couple of times this past year in the 8-dog class. How are you doing today, Remy?
I'm doing good, really good.
Excellent. Well, I appreciate you joining us today. Before we get into this past year's race and your fun at the quest, I wondered if you might be able to tell our audience a little bit about yourself, your kennel, your dogs.
Yeah, we're a kennel located in New Brunswick. We have about 37 dogs, and we mostly focus on a race of 100 mile and above. We've been doing race since 2011, and my wife and I, Catherine, we've been switching from one to another there. About who's going to get to run the big team every year. So that's pretty much it.
Excellent. Can you tell us a little about maybe your first mushing experience or maybe the first memorable mushing experience you had?
I think my first memorable mushing experience was with Adrien Rousseau. He passed away a few years back now. He was a sprinter in north of Quebec City, and he got me to run my first open sprint race team there. I didn't race, but I trained the team, and from that moment I was hooked to the sport.
Exciting. So you started out in the sprint side, and now seem focused on the longer mid distance at least. What made you switch from the sprint side to distance?
Well, I actually only did one winter with Adrien, helping him out with his sprint dog, and then the winter after that, I went to work in a touring kennel. I gave tour to people, and we went on camping trip and stuff like that. So the format of the business was more oriented towards long distance stuff. And the owner of the business was doing mid distance, long distance race as well. So he kind of introduced me to the sport, and then from there I kind of realized that this was more the type of mushing I'd like to do.
Excellent. So do you have a first distance race that comes to mind, or perhaps a story you can share about one of the early races on the distance side?
Oh, there's every one of them have a story. That's why we keep doing it, because there's always something new happening. I can say that. My first real mid distance race was the Can-Am Crown 250 mile. I did it in 2013, and I had to scratch, but I really didn't know what I was getting into, and I really discover what mid distance mushing could be, and the it's an all other level of connection that you got to get with the team in order to perform. And at the time, I didn't have the dog that were meant to do it, so it was really hard work to get those dogs to hit the finish line, which I did in 2014. But in 2013, when I scratched, the organizer of the race at the time came to me after the race, and he said, "It's too bad you scratch. I almost did it to the end, but he said it's too bad you scratch. I really hope you come back next year, because don't be disappointed about that." And I said, "Are you kidding? That was the best sled dog ride of my life. It really opened up my eyes, and from there, I just keep pushing harder and improving my training in order to get the dogs to run what I want them to run. And yeah, it's that was my. I think that to this day, this is still my favorite race. I really had to push my limit and discover my limit on that one.
You talk a little about the dogs. In your first time out, you didn't feel like you had the dogs that were suited best for that. Was there a dog that you got, found, or raised that sort of you really felt like this is the dog, this is the distance dog that I need? Is there one that stands out that you can tell us a little about?
My first real distance dog was Peaches. Uh, I got her as a gift from my friend Denis Tremblay. And I used to ask a lot of questions back then, about training schedule and stuff like that, and how to build a team to run those events. And I had all kind of answers, and I was trying all kind of trick, which didn't work at all because my dogs, like I said, were not meant to do it. I didn't know back then that you need a special breed of dog. That the Alaskan is a special breed of dog that can accomplish stuff that other regular dog cannot do. So when I got my first Alaskan, uh, and I start training, then I understood how those other team were doing because back then I didn't understand. I was like, how come they can perform so well and I have such a hard time? And then when I got Peaches, I was like, okay, that's that's the problem right here. I don't have the right breed of dog at all. Uh, so from there, I built my team around that breed, around the Alaskan, and but applying what I learned running weaker dogs, it was very hard to get weak dogs like I used to have across the finish line. So I had to really fine tune my technique. And once I had better dogs and still applying those technique, well, it really paid off. Having weak dogs because it gave me the chance to work on my skills first, and then once I had good dogs, I didn't have to screw up and make mistakes in order to learn. I still screw up sometimes, but my biggest mistake are done right now. So I'm kind of glad that now that I have better dogs, uh, I I can it's easier. It's easier because all my technique are fine tuned.
Yeah, exactly. Some of the greatest advice I've gotten so far is that I was told to go out and buy the best dog I could afford, because then I understood what a really good dog was like, and it really helped to show how some dogs maybe weren't up to the level that I was hoping for. So it's interesting to see that it's not
Yeah,
just me. Um, so let's sort of move a little towards the Canadian Challenge. I know you came out here to Saskatchewan with a 12 dog team back in 2017, and then you returned
yeah.
this past year with your wife Catherine, of course. Uh, but you participated in the 8 dog and won that race. Is there? Can you tell us a little about your experiences with the challenge? Some things that encouraged you to come back.
But when I came, what I really liked about the challenge was that in 2017 we still had that 100-mile stretch of trail that you had to camp on the trail, and that was creating a really nice dynamic around the race where uh, it was hard to know the whereabouts of the other participant in the race. Since you were not it's not like when you're obligated to stop in every checkpoint and you have a certain amount of time minimum rest to take. You kind of figure out the strategy of the opponent that you are with in the trail. But when you had that stretch there of 100 mile where everybody's going to camp or almost, but you don't know how long they're gonna camp, that's a game changer, and that's what I really like in 2017. And I was looking forward to come back to so Catherine can experience that. Um, Last year when we came, we were also supposed to run both in the 300-mile race, but we had issue with some dog there, so we decided to put the team in the 100 instead. But I really liked the 100-mile. that was a fun race. The course was nice. It was the for us. I'm living in the Appalachian Mountains, so doing a long stretch on the lake like that, not a kind of run that we get to do often here. So it was really nice just to be able to set a pace in the team and watch the team work on that pace and holding it steady. And uh, it give us the opportunity to to improve some skills that we don't have the chance to practice here at home. So that was nice.
Yeah, the lakes sort of come with as a double-edged sword. In good weather days, they can be wonderful. A little bit less pressure
Yeah,
and anxiety as you're going around corners and trying not to hit trees. Uh, but in some of the poor weather conditions with strong winds, they can be really challenging places if people lose track of the trail or it gets blown in with snow.
yeah. Actually, last year I thought it would have been the 100 mile would have been faster if we would have had a shorter rest because the by the time we all got our 12-hour rest, the trail was filled with snow by the time we hit the trail. So we had a slower second run because of that, and I thought that a shorter rest would have give us the chance to get on the trail back on the trail before the trail filled in. And also when in 2017, I remember I had chill, I had goosebump on the lake at night on my way back to La Ronge on the last run because uh, the trail marker, you were once you were at the next trail marker, you could barely see the next one, and sometimes not even. You have to keep going a bit in the dark, and at one point you would start seeing the reflector on the next marker. And I was thinking, if the wind picks up and the blizzard come up or something like that, there's no way you can know where you're going, or you would lose the trail. And it was pitch dark, and so on nice condition, having a hard time to find trail marker. It was giving me goosebumps, imagining myself being in a storm and that same condition. It can be brutal, especially if it's very cold there. It's a good recipe for frostbite and stuff like that. It's a When you're out there, you kind of really hope conditions stay nice when you're on the lake like that.
Exactly. And we were fortunate this past year to have some really nice. It was cold to start, with the 10 dog race, but as the week progressed, it got warmer and warmer. We were, I think, close to zero by the late afternoon on Friday, which I think slowed the teams down a
Yeah,
little at the end on the 8 dog side as well.
yeah, yeah,
So
absolutely.
I've got a couple of questions from some of our fans on social media. So the first one comes from Marie Kung, and her question is: are there other mushers or kennels that you admire or want to emulate, and why?
Oh, there's a lot of
Of course.
Kennel that I admired. Do you want names?
If there's, if you don't want to name names, to choose favorites, if there was some process or trait that you
the
saw, some training technique, something that you noticed and brought into your own kennel because you saw it was really well, or was something you wanted to emulate. I think that's what they're looking
What
for.
I admired a lot is it's dogmanship. I admire that a lot on a musher. It's not every musher that have that. Uh, I admire musher who are able to get their team going no matter what, uh, just because of their connection with their team. Um, I admire musher who respect the pace of their team, and build a strategy around that instead of building a strategy around the other team around them. Those are stuff that I admire a lot. And admire musher know when to pull the plug when just in order to respect their team. If the competition come first, that doesn't work. So I admire musher who are able to keep their head cold, and during competition, and think about their dog first. Those are things that I admire a lot.
Yeah, that I think you called it dogmanship. and I absolutely agree. It's being able to read a dog and how they're feeling and know what they're capable of is
Yeah.
something that I'm sure every musher would love to be able to do 100% of the time. The second question, this one actually comes from Sarah. What's something you really liked at a checkpoint? And that doesn't have to be with the Canadian Challenge or any of the races you've done. Is there a particular checkpoint that you really liked, or that you can share a story about?
Checkpoint that I liked.
Well, if it was because the amenities were great, it made your job easier, or the view was fantastic. I'm thinking about possibly your time on the Yukon Quest. Perhaps there's something there that comes to mind.
Actually, yeah, that what I really liked. It's checkpoint that there. It's actually camping out on the trail. I really like that. You're really on your own, doing your own thing at your own pace. Uh, no distraction. Really easy to focus on the dogs. Nobody come to see you talking about mandatory gear or asking question about anything. You're just doing your own thing. You can so you pick your spot where you feel comfortable and stuff like that. I just really like camping. There's a few checkpoint I've been where you had that feeling. I'm thinking about Bear Grease last year. There was one checkpoint I can't remember the name, but they got us in really into the wood there. So the other team were close by, but you were still feeling in your own cocoon, doing your own thing because you were in close in the trees. So that's what I like about checkpoint. A checkpoint that you feel in the bubble and alone. That's what I really like at the checkpoint.
Excellent. Well, and we're happy to have made some changes to the Canadian Challenge for this year coming up. We've got a slight trail modification, although starting in the same place and finishing at Missinippi, we're going to have a stretch from Missinippi that makes a loop through Stanley Mission and then down to La Ronge, which is a previous trail route that we've done in the past. This time around, we're not going to have a checkpoint there, so I think it's 77 miles approximately that would be available for the 300-mile racers. So, and those that are looking for a 300-mile qualifying race, they will have a chance to do a 77-mile stretch with no checkpoints and carry gear and supplies, and I suspect a fun camping trip out there. So, can you, I don't want you to have to play all your cards just yet, but can you share a little about your upcoming plans for this coming winter and potential races you're looking at?
Right now, Catherine really would like to run Bear Grease, and after that, we give ourselves until October to figure out if I'm registering for Iditarod or not. That's really come to a financial issue there. So if I'm gonna see how works goes and stuff like that, and it's a lot of planification. But if we're able, I would like to go to Iditarod, and if not, we don't know then. But for sure, we're gonna go to Bear Grease no matter what.
Well, that's a very exciting news. Is there some place that people can go to find out more about your kennel, or possibly help you to make it to the Iditarod? You have a website or social media that you can share?
Yeah, we have a website, www.akkada.org. And on Facebook, if you type down Chenil Akkada Kennel, so CHENILAKKADA Kennel, you should find us.
Excellent, and we'll make sure that we include all of that in the show notes so everybody can look at those as well and connect with Remy. I know we're excited to connect with Catherine on her own episode. But I really want to thank you for joining us today. If there's anybody you'd like to thank, because I know it's not a one-person job to have a 30-dog kennel or to participate in races, is there anybody you'd like to thank or give a shout-out to before we close out today?
Oh, there's so many people backing us up and helping us out. I'd like to thank for sure Sylvain, Benoit, and our a member of our family, and every business who been sponsoring us over the years. It's hi to everyone.
Excellent. I'm going to finish out with a question from me, given that you and Catherine are sharing a dog kennel and trying to choose who's doing which race. How do you decide who's taking which dogs? So let's look at the Canadian Challenge last year, right? Catherine was in the 10-dog event and you were in the 8. Is it sort of like a draw where you pick what, she picks one, you pick one, or does she take the team that she wants and you get to pick from the leftovers? How does that work for you guys?
It depend of the race plan. Last year at the challenge, we were really trying to manage the team in order to be able to have a competitive team for the Can-Am Crown. So I kind of took about 6 of our best dog in my team, and to preserve them for the Can-Am 250, so they won't get burnt out on the 200 miles at the challenge. And the remaining of the team was in Catherine team.
Is there a particular dog from your 8-dog team that stood out to you or that seems to come to mind when you think about your dogs, or any info about a dog in that team you can share? I know the fans really enjoy hearing about dog stories.
Well, the dog I had me in my team that he's my superstar is Max. That dog he's been since he's 2 years old. He's been quite an amazing dog. He's a dog that barely sleep in the checkpoint. He just sit there and wait for the next round. Never seems tired. It doesn't matter for him if there's a broken trail or not. He's just an easygoing dog, and there's never an issue for him. He's just such a brilliant dog. He finished the Yukon Quest and lead at 2 years old, and I was really impressed by him.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's
so
fantastic, especially at 2 years old. That's quite an achievement. Is that a dog that you
yeah,
raise? You
yeah,
raise most of the dogs yourselves, or do you?
yeah. It's a dog that I raised, and what was fantastic on the Yukon Quest, running a dog of that age and seeing it improve, is that you really see the dog improve on the 1,000 mile. If you can imagine how much you see a dog improving on a training season, once you've done 1,000 mile with your dog at home of training, you already see some improvement and some amelioration in the dog. But if you imagine running it in a condensed 2 week, you just see just as much evolution on the dog, and but it's like in fast forward, you see the dog evolve so quick. You really see him bloom in front of your eyes. From one run to another, it was just getting better and better and better. Every time we hit hard condition, he would have hard time, but more experienced lead dog show him the work, and the next hard part of trail we hit, he didn't have issue anymore. He already understood what the work was, and so every single day was you could see him evolve, and that was amazing.
Oh, that's fantastic. It's an interesting explanation, because I've heard several people talk about how the bond with their dogs are different, having completed a very long race like Iditarod or Yukon Quest or anything in that 1,000-mile range. I haven't had anybody explain why, and I think you've done a great job of that. So wonderful. So as we close things out, again, I'm going to encourage people to go out and check out Remy's Kennel and their website, and if you can support them in their drive to get to the Iditarod this upcoming season, we certainly wish you good luck in the Bear Grease, and we're looking forward to catching up with Catherine for her own episode. So thank you very much for joining today.
No problem. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
From First Paw Media, This is Canadian Challenge Tales. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and we invite you to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts. You'll find a link on the episode notes. You can tap or swipe on the episode cover art, and you'll see some offers from our sponsors. You can support our show by supporting them. If you like what you have heard, we would love it if you would give us a 5-star rating and tell your friends how to subscribe too. Your host is Dan Kirkup. Our executive producer is Robert Forto. Created for First Paw Media.